Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. Welcome back to Think Above Par. Hope you're having an amazing week. So I want to go back and do a little bit of basics about just golf in general, right? You be a golfer who hits it beautifully on the range. You're flushing it, you're consistent, and you're thinking, yeah, today's going to be the day. And then you walk to the first tee and something happens. The swing that felt effortless 20 minutes ago just disappears. And then you spend the next 4 hours chasing it. Can you relate to that? Because in this episode, I want to talk about that. I'm going to explain exactly why that happens and why it has nothing to do with your swing. And this is the thing that I want you to remember. This isn't a beginner problem. It happens to scratch golfers, competitive amateurs, even tour players. This can happen to anybody. And the thing is that it's not inconsistency. There's not something wrong with your swing. It's not bad technique. It's a brain state problem. The golfer who shows up on the range and the golfer who shows up on the first tee are operating in two completely different mental environments. On the range, there's no consequence, there's no scorecard, there's no audience that matters. On the course, all three exist. And your brain responds to each of those differently without ever asking you permission. And I have witnessed this not only with myself, but I have witnessed this as a teacher over and over again. So many times I would help a golfer with their swing mechanics, or they would come to me with an SOS 911 kind of lesson request, thinking that they've fallen totally apart. There's something dramatically wrong with their swing. And they come to the lesson tee and they start hitting balls and nothing's broken. Their swing is fine. It works perfectly well and will get the job done. And they'll swear that that was not what was happening on the golf course. Have you ever had that happen? They'll say, I swear I was slicing it off of the tee box. I couldn't hit one fairway. Or I sculled it out of almost every bunker, and now they're hitting perfect little bunker shots. Right? If this resonates with you, or you know that you've done this or have felt like the need to do that, run to the lesson tee to fix something that worked the day before but didn't work that day on the golf course, chances are it's not your swing. The range and the course are just different places. They're different brain environments, and nobody taught you how to bridge them. And I just want to bring it up again in this episode because this is what's happening. When your brain perceives stakes, a score that matters, people watching, a handicap on the line, it shifts into protective mode. This is hardwired. It's not a weakness. This is your brain doing its job. Right? And what that's going to look like is you're going to squeeze the club tighter. Your arms are going to get more tense. Your tempo is going to be affected. You might start rushing. You might rush through your pre-shot routine. You might want to step up to the tee and hit before it's your turn to get it over with. You might have a lot of thoughts that weren't there before or on the range. You start thinking about your swing a little bit more. You have more swing thoughts. You're not in the moment and where your feet are. You're focused on what's going to happen after you hit the shot or after the round. You might be steering the ball instead of swinging at your target. You could guide it and decelerate. It could be that feeling of trying to control something that worked best when you just left it alone. And sometimes this can snowball where we start trying harder, grabbing at straws, chasing squirrels, I call it, trying the next swing thought. Because we're trying to create some certainty and some control in an environment, a golf course environment, that is full of so many things that we can't control. So the harder you try to control it, the worse it gets. So you might just tell yourself to just stay positive. Or someone in your group is telling you, be positive, stay positive. But that skips the actual problem. You cannot think your way out of a nervous system response with a mantra. You need a process that gives your brain something real to do, something to follow, so it stops defaulting to protection mode. You've got to witness what's happening. Right? You got to step outside of yourself like you're watching a motion picture and witness your brain. I think even the concept of just understanding that you're in two different mental environments is super useful. Right? You can think about so many different scenarios where there's different mental environments, whether it's another sport or they're at practice, or they're going through scrimmages, and then they're going to the real game. Whether it's a musical or a play, and they're going through rehearsals, and then it's time to get on the stage. It's showtime. Two totally different environments. Of course, your brain is not going to operate the same way. And the bigger of a deal you make that stage, being the golf course and the score and the tournament, the more challenging it is going to be to manage the brain that has only had the experience of working inside of a non-stressful environment, being the range or practicing. Right? The bridge that you have to make between the range and the course performance is a repeatable mental process. Not motivation, not confidence, a process. When your brain has a process to follow, something familiar, something practiced, it stops scanning for threats and starts executing. That's what you're trying to build. So often I see people go out to the golf course, and I already mentioned this, but they beat themselves up. They feel like they're broken. They feel like their swing is broken. They waste money on lessons, new equipment, prettier shoes, maybe, right? When that's not actually the problem. The problem that they're missing is it's not the same place. Of course, you're not going to perform the same as you do on the range or in a practice round or in a casual round of golf with your friends or family. And then we think there's something wrong when we're not looking at the big picture. We're not just sitting there going, well, that's two different stages. And what you need is a process to take what you own, the talent that you have on the range, out onto the golf course. And of course, I always say, I'm not saying don't work on your swing. We're always working on our swing. But you know it's not your swing if you can do it on the range in that pretty calm environment. And then everything seems to shift and be different when you go to the golf course. Okay, but there are specific ways that we end up making the gap between the range and the golf course bigger. The first one is when you're outcome focused. When you're thinking about the score, the result, what the shot means, before, during, or after the round, every time you attach meaning to the outcome of a shot, you activate a threat response. And the fix isn't to stop caring, which I get so many people say, I'm just not going to care as much. That's not the solution. It's to redirect your brain to what it can actually control. It's about training it to be focused on the moment at hand. Another way we make the gap bigger is when you take swing thoughts out onto the golf course, and you take a lot of them. Every single lesson seems to come right up to the front part of your brain. I have actually had that happen in lessons where I gave someone a lesson. I gave them some really good things to work on. They were hitting it great. And then they went on the golf course and it all fell apart. And they start scrambling, and they go back to a lesson they took in 1987 where they thought they remembered that they put pressure on their pinky toe of their right foot on the downswing. And listen, if you believe it and it works, knock yourself out. But it is amazing what our brain will do when we're on the golf course. We get so many swing thoughts as we start tapping into all the different lessons and instructions and videos and books that we've read. And we'll try them all. And that only leads to tension and confusion, which is not useful out on the golf course. The third way that we make this gap bigger is that there's no recovery process. Bad shots aren't the problem. Every golfer hits bad shots. The problem is what happens in the 90 seconds after a bad shot, where the story you tell yourself either compounds the damage or clears it. Most golfers have no system for this. Right? You hit a bad shot, you get down, you get pissed off, you get focusing on how you screwed up the round. Now you're more upset. You might shame yourself. Then you go up and hit the next shot crappy, and that compounds. And next thing you know, you made an 8. Right? When you could have saved so many shots if you knew how to recover, meaning get yourself back into a place where you can focus and swing freely right after that shot. And what that means is you have a way to direct your thoughts. You're not letting them go wherever they want. You have a way to direct your emotions right after that golf shot so that it serves you and it benefits you. Without a process, and you let your brain go wherever it wants, it likely will not serve you. So my point is, my friends, this isn't a swing problem. It never was. The golfer you are on the range is who you actually are. Sure, you're going to have days where you don't hit so great. I get that. But that's who you are. The golf course just needs to meet that golfer. And that's a trainable thing. I've spent the last several months building something specifically for this gap. A complete system, processes for training your brain for the course. It really helps you feel like you have more control over how you show up out there, which is what we want.
We want to be able to control the things that we can control. And one of the things is the processes that you create on the golf course to help you get into a state where you can swing freely and think clearly. I'm going to share more about it over the next couple of weeks. But if you want to take a quick quiz to see how many shots your mental game is costing you on the golf course, there's a link in the show notes, and you'll automatically be on the wait list when new programs open up. All right, my friends, you are not broken, but going into this season, the goal is to narrow that gap between the range and the golf course. All right, have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.